I still can't change my background. It used to be able to change.
We're going live now. All right. Let me pull up my chair. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Chair Anna Sexton, and I would like to welcome you to the September 27th, 2021 Neighborhood Advisory Committee virtual meeting. We will now call our meeting to order. The Neighborhood Advisory Committee consists of 9 members, all appointed by the City Council with representation from specific community sectors. Members shall be residents of the city or the city's extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction and shall reflect the socioeconomic diversity of Asheville. The term of office is 3 years. The committee was established to advise the City Council on neighborhoods within the City of Asheville's zoning and planning jurisdiction. And the committee shall have the following powers and duties. 1, develop rules and bylaws for the conduct of its business, including but not limited to meeting schedules, officers, voting, and subcommittees. 2, develop a plan to strengthen neighborhood identity and resilience and to facilitate communication and cooperation between Asheville's neighborhoods and city offices. 3, develop benchmarks and standards by which progress towards implementing the plan can be measured. And 4, work on special projects that are consistent with the goals of the committee as assigned or directed by City Council. All committee members and staff are participating virtually today, and we appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a little bit differently. We are streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We have the option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801 and entering meeting code 9247. For those of you who plan to speak during our live public comment today, you will need to hit *3 to be put in the speaker queue. And for those of you out there with us today, welcome and thanks for tuning in. I will now go through and introduce all committee members and staff who are participating virtually. And for our committee members, please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. And when you have a question or would like to speak, click the raise the hand icon and I'll go ahead and acknowledge that you have a comment. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. All right, committee members, as I say your name, please say a quick hello. I'll go ahead and start. I'm Anna Sexton, and I'm the chair of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, and I represent zip code 28806. Bobette Mays.
Yes, I'm Bobette Mays. Hi, Vice Chair, and I represent 28803 and 28704.
Greta Bush, I believe, is not on the call today, but she is an at-large member. Next up, JP Chalarka.
Hello, everyone. This is JP. I represent 28801.
Mike Wasmer. Thought I saw Mike on the phone. It looks like he may not be on the call currently. Okay. Mike is an at-large member. Wendy Hayner.
Wendy Hayner here. I represent zip code 28804.
Peter Abzug.
Hello, I am here and I am an at-large member.
Sharon Sumrall.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I represent 28805.
And Elizabeth Likas Worley.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm an at-large member and I reside in 28803.
All right, thanks, y'all. Our council liaison is Kim Roney. Kim, are you here? I don't think I see her on the call. Okay.
Anna, if I may interrupt, I'm Mike Wasmer, and I'm at-large member living in 28801.
Great, thanks. Glad we have you here. And then we also have staff members and city staff members in attendance. So Jeremy Lett, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Lett. I'm the interim neighborhood and community engagement manager. I'm glad to be with you all this evening.
Thanks. And then we have Dawa Hitch on the line as well, I believe.
Hello, everybody. Dowahitch here. I'll be in the background and may not be around for the whole meeting. Just wanted to make sure that you all got off and running with Jeremy and serving in this new role. So I appreciate all you being here.
Thanks, Dawa. All right, to start our committee agenda items, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. And additionally, our Vice Chair, Babette Mays, is our timekeeper for each meeting. So she will signal when discussion time listed is expired. So I'll go ahead and run through, our first item is approval of the minutes for the August 23rd NAC meeting. And these minutes, I believe, were sent out to the committee several weeks ago. So I'll go ahead and we just need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the August 23rd meeting.
Thanks, Wendy. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
All right, thanks, Peter. Any comment before taking roll call? All right, go ahead and run through our list. This is Anna Sexton, and I, as my vote. Babette Mays.
Aye.
JP Chawarka.
Aye.
Mike Wasmer.
Aye.
Wendy Hayner.
Aye.
Peter Abzug.
Aye.
Sharon Samuel.
Aye.
And Elizabeth Lekis Worley.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, y'all. Motion carries. We'll now go ahead and just review today's agenda for folks tuning in. Today, we'll acknowledge any public comment that was submitted. We'll receive some activities and updates from our staff liaison, Jeremy Lett. We'll run through some unfinished business with regards to moving the Volunteer of the Year recommendations forward, or just touching base on those. And then new business today is we'll have a conversation led by Jeremy regarding the NAC annual report. We'll also provide NAC members and those listening in updates from other boards, and just run through some housekeeping for possible agenda items for upcoming meetings and discuss our next regular meeting date. All right, so regarding public comment, no comments were submitted either by voicemail or email for the September 27th, 2021 meeting. But I do see, Mike, your hand's raised, so go ahead.
Joe Fiacola did submit an email. It's just about a half an hour ago. I don't know if you want to have a look at it. He just has some contention regarding the it's not the change of the bylaws, but the thing that was supposedly maybe had to go to council within the goals, or might just take a look at it if you get a chance.
Thanks, Mike. We did receive that. I'll go ahead and let you step in, Jeremy, and give us an update on that.
Yeah, so I did see that email. I did see those comments, and I did share those with the deputy city clerk. And so once I start talking, kind of get those staff activities and updates, I will speak on that and just make sure that doesn't happen again. But we did receive those comments, and I will address in the next section of the meeting.
Thank you. All right, so we will go ahead and move on to the staff activities and updates from Jeremy, since we didn't have any public comment. So I'll turn it over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Anna. So I do want to make it known that, yes, there was a comment that was emailed to us shortly before the meeting. And so I do want to apologize to everyone here on this committee, anyone who might be listening, for not uploading the materials for the meeting in a timely fashion. Again, that's something that I did let the deputy city clerk know and want to make sure that we were still in compliance, and we are. But moving forward, I will make sure to have that information up in a timely manner. Thank you for anyone who let me know about that. And again, I'll make sure that moving forward, have that information uploaded so we can receive comments. And so again, I apologize for that. So the first thing that we'll talk about, and you know, I'll sort of run through these updates, and then any questions, please let me know at the end. The first thing is going to be neighborhood matching grants. And so this is something that I know Dallas spoke about at the last meeting, and I know there were a couple of questions, but I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit more. If there's any questions, just let me know. So announced late last week, they begin on October the 1st. Neighborhoods can register, or neighborhoods can apply for up to $5,000 in matching grants. The application is a Google form. It's going to be open on the 1st. So when we made that announcement, I've had a couple of people that contacted me to try to access the application. It will not be open and live until the 1st of October. But on Friday, it'll be open. You can apply. Please spread the word. We're hoping to get a lot of activity on this, but it will be open on October the 1st. Donations can be fully matched through in-kind donations, volunteer hours, or you can do a cash match. And there's going to be 2 rounds of funding. One's going to begin in October, ending October the 31st. You're looking at about a 3 to 4 week turnaround time with announcing the winners. And then we'll have another round of funding in the month of March. And so there will be more information coming out about that, but we'll be doing this twice a year. The next thing, sort of the next update, is one of the things that we're hoping to do with these neighborhood grants is get a member from NAC on that. I think getting that input is going to be really important. I know this is something that I thought someone might be interested in sitting on that committee. It will be comprised of staff, myself, and potentially a NAC member. We're working on sort of what that selection process looks like now. But getting feedback from the communities, I think, is really important. There's a rubric that has been developed. So just making sure that we're doing this in a way that sort of gets as much public participation as possible. I hope to have those details out by the end of this week about what that process will look like. But again, it'll be city staff on there. We'll be reviewing all the applications, matching them up to the rubric. And again, look forward to having one of you sort of get your input on the process. Next piece of business, neighborhood development guide. And so myself, along with the planning department, we have been working for the last few weeks on a development guide for neighborhoods and developers. We've been working with some stakeholders in the community that have brought up some issues around these community meetings, trying to get the process a little bit better. And so working with this group, we've submitted a rough draft of this neighborhood guide. Again, this will sort of formalize what the meeting should be like, some best practices, a list of making sure that developers are in compliance, letting neighbors and neighborhoods know what to expect. And we're really just trying to sort of improve this ongoing process of making sure that when we have meetings with developers, that these meetings are transparent, make sure that they're running as best as possible. And so we're still working on that neighborhood guide. We submitted, there's a rough draft of it that we went over with Ken. I believe it was last week, if not the week before. Thanks, Sharon. And we were able to get some really good feedback. There's a couple of things that we still have to tweak, but we went over that draft. I think it looks really good. Once we sort of as departments, we agree on this, definitely bring it to NAC, get your input, get your feedback, and just let us know if there's anything that we need to think about as we start implementing this guide. Next thing, which is something that I also heard in the meeting that we had last week, was Simplicity. So those of you who might not know, Simplicity is a tool that the city uses where you can track developments, capital projects, you can get crime stats. That's a tool that the city has been using for a while, but there was some feedback that maybe people aren't aware of it or don't know how to use it. And so one of the things that I'm looking at doing this month is creating sort of a how-to guide and a video about how to use this tool, but then also reaching out to neighborhoods. So if they want a live demo, or if they just want, I don't know, the HOA or the neighborhood association, they want to know how to use it, I'll go out there, teach them how to use the tool. It's a really good tool. You can follow development step by step. It goes over the process from pre-TRC, TRC, like there's a lot of really good information that's out there. And it's a tool that we're really asking people sort of to use because we know there's a lot of development going around, and just having those tools we think can be really helpful. So I'll have more updates for that, but it is some feedback that we received from the community that this is a tool that we should probably promote a little bit more and teach people how to use. So I'll be working on a guide with that. The last thing I have is for next month's meeting, we have the Office of Data and Performance, who wants about 20 minutes to talk about some of the work that they're doing. So this office is, they've been fully staffed now for about 130 days. And so they're doing a lot of work in the city. And so they're asking for about 20 minutes to come in, talk about the work that they're doing, figure out how they can work better with NAC. And so for next month's meeting, they do want to talk a little bit about what they do and how they think this committee can help them and some of the things that they're trying to do. And so I know that was quite a bit. Again, the grants, I know that's something that sort of Dow went over. If there are any questions about that, please ask now, because I know we kind of roll that out. And so I'll gladly ask any questions. Sharon, I think your hand up first, and then Peter.
I've got a question on the volunteer hours. You said something about volunteer hours. Was that in the explanation? I didn't read that. How does that equate to dollar amount?
So if that information was on the one page, it might not have been sort of explained thoroughly. So what this looks like an application is if a neighborhood is looking to get, I don't know, $2,000 for Name Your Project, they are eligible to match that $2,000 cash match through volunteer hours. We have the volunteer hours calculated at $24.57 per hour, which is the market rate right now. And so what they'll be able to do is complete a volunteer log showing all of the participation that they did, or logging those volunteer hours. That will then be submitted to us, and then that's how you can do your cash match through volunteer hours, or any kind of donations or dollar match.
Is there a minimum amount to ask for in this grant? But the max is $5, but no minimum amount. So we could ask for $100 if we needed $100.
You can ask for $100 if you needed $100.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Sorry, Peter. I saw your hand up.
Yeah, this simplicity tool, I just want to make sure I heard it correct. This is a tool that can track the various development projects going on in the area. Is this open to the public on our website? How does one get into that tool to, explore it?
So yeah, it is a tool that can be found on our city's page. Like I know earlier today, I was sort of reading a little bit about it, and I just Asheville Simplicity, and it pops up, and it's a really thorough tool. Like it talks about the differences between level 1, level 2 conditional zoning. Like it breaks all of those things down, and also you are able to track projects. So if there's something in your area or your neighborhood that you're interested in, it sort of tracks the progress of this development. So it's a really good tool. I've played around with it a little bit. I'll definitely, again, play around with it a little bit more, and I can definitely provide a more thorough explanation of all that it can do once I've created that guide. But yeah, it can be accessed through the city's website.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I wanted to say one more thing. I'm real familiar with Simplicity. I've been using it for 3 years now. So if anybody wants to email me, Jeremy, because you're fairly new on it, you can email me and I can walk you through it. What I am finding, though, that's happening is that a lot of what's being submitted through the application process at TRC is not always, it's available to me because I'm on TRC, but a lot of the information will not be available to the general public other than the fact that it's been submitted. So I haven't been able to figure out yet, because I get everything, what the general public can see and what they cannot see. I will see staff reports when they're going through the process, but not everybody that's not on TRC will see a staff report. So they won't always know what's going on. And I would like to see that changed. I don't know if that's a possibility, or I would like to see more information go in so that general public can actually know what's going on, other than the fact that there's an application made for a development, and that's all that you guys get to see, where I see everything on it. So if that could be changed somehow, I think that would benefit the community a lot more.
Jeremy, Wendy's on next. Wendy's got to come on next.
Oh, thank you, Bobette.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I just have another question going back to the neighborhood grants, please. You stated a price for the volunteer hours, and I didn't catch that. How much is it?
Let me tell you, I want to say, I have it right here. Give me 1 second. I think I said $24.57, but I want to confirm that. $24.69.
69. Okay.
$24.69. I'm sorry, I talk fast. I got $24.69. So
Thank
sorry.
you, Jeremy.
No problem.
Oh, Wendy, do you have another question? Oh, okay. This is Anna. That's a lot of really great information. I also just want to piggyback on what Sharon said, and I think finding the balance where you're not releasing any sort of premature information to the public regarding development, but the more that we can sort of see to put the pieces together about larger developments happening in the community, and even having links to staff reports, I think would be wonderful. Is there any other question or comment related to Jeremy's staff updates? All right, looks like no, so we'll go ahead. Thank you very much, and move on to the unfinished business item, which, excuse me, is pertaining to the Volunteer of the Year recommendations. So we left the August meeting with a new sort of process that we voted on and approved, that was developed by Greta, Mike, and Wendy. And my understanding is, from there, all we really need to do as a committee is coordinate with city staff to implement those recommendations. So I think that the question here is seeing the implementation of those recommendations take form through a Volunteer of the Year working group. And right now we've got Mike, Wendy, and Greta on board, but do we want to, I spoke with Greta a little bit knowing that she wasn't going to be on the call today. Do we want to modify that group? Do you, I guess, Wendy and Mike, want to stay on that working group and sort of handle that process through NAC, where we'll receive sort of monthly updates from you all in terms of how that's going? So yeah, Wendy, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Anna. This is Wendy Hayner. Yes, I will be more than happy to stay on the Volunteer of the Year committee, and I would like to go ahead and have Jeremy submit to us the list of individuals that have been submitted that have not been, and this goes back to 2019, I believe.
Okay.
What we need to do is the three of us, or if Mike and Greta are going to stay on the committee, then we need to review those applications and get this process moving quickly.
Right. So I think what we just want to do today is solidify who's going to be on that working group team, and then you all can sort of reconvene offline and work directly with Jeremy to get any sort of information or materials that you need. Mike, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Wasmer here. I'm happy to flex off, or I'll stay on. There's obviously no limit on how many people can be on here, so we can definitely have 5. So whatever works. If people want to join up and we have more than enough, then I'll wait for the next kind of committee assignment or task force assignment. So yeah, I'm flexible either way.
Good deal. Do we have anyone else out there today that would be interested in joining that working group?
I would be interested in that. This is Elizabeth.
Okay, wonderful. So I think what we'll go ahead and do, just moving forward, is Wendy, Mike, Elizabeth, and also maybe looping Greta into that conversation and seeing sort of what iteration of the 4 of you, or if somebody wants to drop off, you all can figure that out offline and kind of create a plan for moving forward with Jeremy, and then we'll look to whatever group takes shape to give us an update at our October meeting on how that process is going. Sound good? Great. So that unfinished business is now finished, and we will move into the new business, which I will go ahead and turn it back over to Jeremy. This is, oh, we got somebody? Oh, sorry. I thought I heard some feedback. Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you to kind of kick off the conversation about the NAC annual report.
Thank you, Anna. So yeah, this is Jeremy. So while stepping in this interim role and just sort of, I know we have couple of new NAC members on the committee. But one thing that we generally do every year is create an annual report. This annual report is what goes to the city council, and what it is to recommend strategies for improvements, strengthen neighborhoods, organizational development, and promote and celebrate Asheville's neighborhoods. And so what I wanted to take the time during this block of the meeting, I wanted to be really conversational, but what I wanted us to start thinking about and discuss is it's September as we go into the end of the year, trying to look at some of the work that we've done up until this point, but then think about if there's something that we want to focus on for the remainder of the year, where we can sort of create that report, something that we all feel good about, to submit that to city council about maybe strategies for some improvement about this or the next thing. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of, I know you all, in your respective neighborhoods might hear some things that we might not, or have noticed something that you think that, NAC can get behind to sort of recommend to council that we should start thinking about or improving upon. And so what I wanted this block of time to be is just a conversation about what we can sort of think about as we move forward that we can recommend, or something that we've done up to this point that we want to sort of talk about in this annual report and sort of present to city council. So I wanted this to be sort of a conversational piece, but I see Anna, your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to sort of piggyback off of what you're saying and invite the rest of NAC when you have any sort of ideas to share or, points to raise, to really think about how we can tie anything moving forward to the goals list that we developed at our sort of retreat or working session, what have you, so that we're really using that document to inform all of our actions that we take this year, and can, there's sort of this linear movement when that annual report is being developed, so that we can see that progression. And then that can also serve next year when we decide we may want to do something completely different in terms of how we structure that working session or retreat itself, but also goals for NAC. So go ahead, Sharon.
Things have changed in my neighborhood with what our goals were due to COVID and our officer decline. And on our last neighborhood meeting, we're talking about, of course, and as other neighborhoods are, lack of resource officers, lack of our police force due to many, many reasons. And that's not on our goal, but it is a concern now. And it is a concern for my neighborhood with our last meeting. Our resource officer left, who we were all very familiar with. I know I manage a shopping center. My resource officer left over there. So we're all kind of flailing around with what's going on. And I don't know whether we can add that to our concerns, to our list, even though it's not on our goals, because it wasn't an issue a while ago. I mean, it was, but now it's really an issue. So that's my conversational input.
Thanks, Sharon. I think that that's another, that's something that I would like to see as well. And I do think that we can certainly tie that into sort of that goals or action items that we developed for 2022, and find an area to house that under, whether it's, strengthening organizational neighborhood organizational development, or recommend strategies to improve Asheville neighborhoods, looking at neighborhood issues forums. So it definitely aligns with some of the things we already talked about, even if it wasn't explicitly mentioned earlier. JP, I see your hands up.
This will follow some of the comments I made already via email, and I apologize for using the reply all. Some of the things I keep hearing from the folks that live here and work here is that there's too much traffic. And also, as this becomes an increasingly more dense corridor of pedestrians and bicycles that are coming through this corridor from downtown through Hilliard and down Klingman, There are missing sidewalks in some parts. And we also need better traffic calming and also figure out how we can start to diminish the traffic, not only parked alongside some of these streets like Depot and some of the adjacent areas, by encouraging more people to walk here as well as to bike here. So that concept of this being a major connector between the activity that goes on downtown to what's going on in the arts districts and in the breweries, we need to be able to tie that more for not only the peace of mind of the residents, but as visitors, this is the greeting card in many cases to them who continue to make this decision to walk down here. And some of the sidewalks are missing. Some of the parks are not very well kept. The shrubbery is encroaching onto the sidewalks. There's litter along the path. And again, that's all part of that help reduce the noise because of the traffic, help reduce the congestion, increase safety. People running down crazy speeds down Depot and some of the other side streets. Little Kleeman extension, both rows of cars parked cheek to cheek all the way from the bottom of the roundabout all the way to the top. It makes it very difficult for folks to transit that area, not only on foot, but also residents who need to get to one place or the other. I'll stop there.
Thank you, JP. I think that also could tie into even talking with public safety and resource officers about enforcement and how, I think those two things are certainly related. Bobette, I see your hands up.
And sorry, I'll counter your point. I think this isn't so much about enforcement because, again, if we don't have the folks to enforce, we can't be realistic about enforcement. So it's about prevention. It's about putting measures in to actively force people to slow down and to be better and smarter about how we design these streets, especially with newer projects that are coming up where the number of people who are going to be living here in this area within the next 5 years is potentially going to increase significantly. There's high density projects that are underway and have been approved. So all of that's going to make something that is a concern now even worse in the future.
Bobette and then Jeremy.
Yes, I live in the Shiloh community and I live on Rock Hill Road. That is right at where people come through Oakley to get on to Sweeten Creek. What I want to say is that our area, we are the last of the African American communities that are still standing, and we are residents and we're homeowners. And I know that there are people all over Asheville, but when I hear you all talk about what the people in your communities want, are you diversified when you talk about your communities? Because I know there are people that live on South French Broad, and I'm talking about, minorities, not just Black people, brown people too. But we engage in Shiloh with our neighbors. We get to know our neighbors and we talk to them. I was raised in Asheville all my life, and I know the city, I know the people, but we have a vast population of people that have just moved here or have been here maybe 10 years, but you really don't know the people. So I would think that NAC, as you're being in your neighborhoods, reach out to everyone, not just one particular group of people, and ask them how they feel. And when you come back in and find out what they're telling you, then maybe we can get some results. Because we have a problem on Rock Hill Road with traffic. We have the speed limit has been decreased, and people still come through fast. And some of us live on hidden drives, and it can be complicated. So I understand. I used to live in the Montfort district, and I think that things are changing. But I think that NAC is supposed to be able to go out into our communities and try to engage with all the people. So I ask that you please just talk to the people in your community, and you have to come out your comfort zone sometimes and talk to other people in your community, and you might be able to see that they have the same feelings and you can get things done quicker.
This is Jeremy. And I just, because again, I know sometimes I talk fast, and so to make sense of this. So just for context for new members, I'm even looking at an annual report and some of the issues that we're talking about. Traffic being one. I know noise has been something in the past that when submitting an annual report, there was a proposal to have like an issues forum. And I'm not opposed to that, but what I'm really wanting to do, and again, I know the goals that we have for this year, and just thinking about writing up this annual report. I really hope from this meeting, as we continue to talk and we figure out what that issue is, that I'm hoping that our action step can be looking at maybe 1 or 2 issues that we see are impacting all of these communities. And we can say, council, here's what we're hearing. Here's a strategy that either you all are doing that maybe we should strengthen, or maybe look at doing something a different way. So that's sort of my goal. I don't know if I articulated that clearly, but I'm hoping that's what we can do in the annual report. If that looks like an issue forum, I'm totally cool with that. I'm for that. But really just want to think about those action steps and strategy that we can put forward. And that's my piece.
Thanks, Jeremy. That was helpful. Elizabeth, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you. I have at the recent Oakley Neighborhood Association meeting, and we have been sort of working also with Beverly Hills, the general feeling that Fairview Road, which is, when I'm looking at that first goal that says, we're celebrating neighborhoods, that Fairview Road all the way from Biltmore Village over to, 240 up until the golf course. The neighbors generally continue to say month after month, it is not safe. I feel like I can't walk my kids. I can't push, we can't bike on that road. We can't do any of that. So I'm hearing a lot of the same issues, but we don't have any kind of greenway. We have sidewalks that are about a foot and a half has been cleared. The rest of it is just so overgrown. So I think I'm hearing those common issues, and even something simple like, besides the traffic calming and the safety issues, is signage. There's no, some neighborhoods have great signs. You can come, people from Biltmore Village have no idea where they're going when they turn on Fairview Road. There's not even a road sign, much less an Oakley neighborhood sign. So just being able to celebrate it and letting people enter and go, oh, I'm about to enter this neighborhood, or things like that, I think would go a long way just to sort of promote the neighborhood feel in different pockets.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Sharon, please go ahead.
I'm Easton Valley, and I was listening to what Bobette had to say. I only know what my Easton Valley neighborhood does, and I represent 28805. I have no idea how to get into during this period of time into other areas that are in 28805, and other than my Easton Valley, and find out how they're feeling about issues in their neighborhood. So I was thinking about what Bobette said, and I thought, I have no idea how to get outside of my Easton Valley neighborhood and talk to anybody around other than that.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Just again, this is Jeremy. Looking at the goals, and Bobette, you brought this up, and I even believe that Dalla talked about this last meeting. And again, this also can go in that annual report, because again, as I look at other ones, there's upcoming goals. So you're looking at what you want to do for the next year. It also looks at what you've accomplished for the current year. So right now, this conversation, we're looking at either things that we want to commit to for the remainder of this year, or even things that we can carry on to the next year. I say all that to say, I know Dalla brought up having these meetings in various neighborhoods. I understand COVID is still here, and so if anyone's uncomfortable, totally get that. But as we think about for the annual report and a goal for maybe next year, does that mean we have one in this zip code, so in Shiloh at the Shiloh Center? Does it look like we have it at Oakley at the Pavilion or at that library? Does this feel like something that needs to be included in that annual report, where we can sort of hear and see things that other communities are experiencing? Or does that fall into that issues forum that maybe you've done in the past? Sorry, go ahead, Anna.
Thank you. I really like that idea and you're talking about city council coming in and holding a meeting.
That is something that Dalla spoke about at that last meeting, but also aside from that, maybe NAC doing the same thing. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be great. I know that in the past, like when I first joined NAC, we had a big, long sort of Excel sheet with contact information for various neighborhood associations. And also Brenda really wanting to work with neighborhoods to establish sort of a generic email for each association so that when turnover occurred, emails weren't getting sent and just sort of going into nowhere. But one thing that, or at least one tool, I don't know how effective it was to just try, I personally tried to engage with folks sort of in my zip code range via email. Didn't have a whole lot of luck, but it was a start. And Jeremy, I don't know if there's any sort of update that you can give on sort of streamlining the communication like via the general email for neighborhood associations. Is that something that's still kind of being worked out?
I'm sorry, this is Jeremy. Could you? That
was, very poorly worded. So like for the various neighborhood associations, like Burton Street or Awana, rather than having the president of that association and their personal email attached as a contact, developing like Burton Street Association at asheville.gov or something like that, so that when turnover occurs, folks aren't getting locked out of email accounts, emails aren't going to an inactive account. So that was something that I had talked with Brenda about a while back, and I wasn't sure if that was still part of the conversation.
I'm sorry. This is Jeremy. That is news to me. But I do see your point in that, and sort of the need to formalize some of these things for turnover and these sort of other things. So I'll jot that down, and that is something that I'll think about.
Well, thanks. I think it's just to have a more direct line of communication, and more people can access that email account however they want. I saw some other hands up. I don't see any up now. Mike, did you have comment?
No, it was just a similar comment to what you clarified.
Okay, got it. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Yes, this may be a silly question. This is Elizabeth, but when you're talking about the annual report and what you've accomplished, were there goals set last year that you can sort of run through and say, these are the ones we got to and these are the ones we didn't?
This is Anna. Definitely. I think with NAC sort of being on pause for a period of time, it was an awkward restart. But revisiting those would certainly be worthwhile, and seeing that it is an obvious question, and it's obviously something that we should have done, but we didn't do in the midst of trying to get NAC meetings up and running again. So I think that's a great point, and something that we can certainly do and share with the larger committee after this meeting. Anyone else? Go ahead, Jeremy.
I don't want to do all the talking, and so I'll hand it back to you and kind of open up the floor, because again, I don't want to belabor this, but what I'm hearing so far, we're getting back to sort of that traffic and looking at some of those things surrounding traffic, and so I'm perfectly fine if that's the thing that we want to focus on and think about a strategy as it pertains to that. But just wanted to say that's all I'm hearing thus far, and if that I know that's robust enough and we can talk about that forever, but if that's what it is, I totally understand, but just want to open that back up. This is all I'm hearing thus far is traffic. Just let me know if there's anything else.
JP, did you have a comment? Okay, JP and then Mike.
I heard not only the concerns related to traffic and safety and all of that, walkability, bikeability, but also it sounds to me like we were short of making a commitment as NAC of what vehicles and tools we're going to use to help us come closer to where the people are rather than having them trying to find us. So that includes a sound strategy that encompasses not only what Anna was saying related to some kind of better way of communicating via email, but not only. Are we talking about using other platforms and being more present in them, like Nextdoor? Other things like organizing some kind of walk process. I mean, I go deep into my neighborhood, and the way I do it is I have a lot of coffee and I walk a lot, and that's the way how I get to know all my neighbors from this end of the neighborhood all the way to the south side. So I just stop people and I ask if they're visiting. Thanks for visiting. Hey, do you live here? How long have you lived here? But that's the only way that I can see, because in this part of the neighborhood, in some pockets, most of these folks they're not on email, especially the folks that I want to hear about. I don't want to hear about all the other faces that look just like mine. I want to know about everybody else who's having a challenge getting on a Zoom call, or because of their schedules of time, they can't come to these meetings. They don't have the resources. Maybe they don't have the tools. So walking and meeting people out there in their own space is the most effective way that we're going to reach them.
Thanks, JP. Go ahead, Mike, and then Elizabeth.
Mike Wasmer here. I definitely resonate with JP's comments, especially insofar as needing a public forum to have not deliberations, because that's not what we do outside of this meeting, but to have conversations about things that don't have to violate the open meetings laws, or don't make us divide emails up into 3 different chains in order to have a conversation. Because I think anytime anybody tries to do that, it just feels sketchy, and it feels like very obstructive to having a conversation. So, and I second that. Is like it doesn't matter what public forum it is, what platform it is. I was even thinking Reddit might work, because that's also widely available without an app, without a smartphone, things like that. But that's it.
Thanks, Mike. Elizabeth?
Yeah, this is Elizabeth again. I really like that idea of moving the NAC meeting around. I know that the city council, we talked about that as well. And I brought it back to one of my neighborhood meetings, and they were like, absolutely. Anytime people want to come and walk our streets and see for themselves. But I think I think it would be a great opportunity. Maybe that's one of our goals, is that we have at least, every other meeting. I don't know what the realistic goal would be, but to say, yeah, we're going to get out there. And I was also under the impression, maybe I heard this wrong when I sort of went through my brief orientation with Brenda and Jeremy a couple months ago, is part of the expectation of members of this community going to the other neighborhood association meetings, either for their zip code or just in general. Is that something that
I'm sorry, this is Jeremy. That is definitely something that is, we definitely strongly recommend, if you're able to do so. Just so if you're hearing things in your community or hearing things that affect your zip code, you can bring it back to the large group. That is something that we strongly recommend individuals to do. So yes.
All right, Baba, and then Mike.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jeremy said. I go to every association meeting for Shiloh. I do want to engage more with 28704. So I think that's a good idea. I like that for a goal for us.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Mike here. Doing regional meetings is something that NAC used to do, and then we kind of changed when we went to the forum model. It might be something we want to revisit as far as whether that's necessary or whether that's something we want to do. I think either forum or regionals help. It's really hard to predict. If COVID would just tell us what it's got in store for us next year, it'd be a little easier to make a decision, but public meetings would be great. It has always helped to inform us, and I'm sad that they haven't been around.
Wendy, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Anna. This is Wendy Hayner. A lot of us do attend our community, our neighborhood meetings, and we come away with lots of thoughts and comments that people are saying. What would I would like to suggest is that each one of us take our area that we are responsible for and make a list of all the things that are going on in our neighborhood. And then we can bring this list together to give to Jeremy, and then he can then correlate them all and find out which ones are coming up at the top, which ones are a little lower. And that way we can then start to address the ones that are up at the top and then eventually get to the ones that are at the bottom. But this way, all of the neighborhoods are all being addressed at one time instead of just doing it sporadically. I think it would be a good idea to try something a little different by giving us the responsibility to report back about our area code, our zip code that we're working in. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. This is Anna. And then Mike, I see your hands up. I don't want to create more work for you, Jeremy, in that regard, and want to be mindful of that. I think that there are ways to poll the public, whether that be some spitballing here. I don't know if we want to even do a very quick survey that NAC develops that is circulated amongst our community networks and on the city website, literally like a 2-question survey where we could gather crowdsource information like that. Or if we want to just go ahead and discuss sort of offline too. So getting kind of off topic, but not really. I'll fill you all in on our multimodal retreat from last week in a little bit, but I think that there is an opportunity for NAC to capitalize on sort of a working group model for a lot of these different things where we can tackle a lot of this work outside of these meetings. And I think it's really up to us to decide how much work we all want to take on as a committee, but that will also result in getting a lot more accomplished. So that, you know, we can, whether it's having a working group that works on sort of the go to the people meeting, whether that be for NAC and or helping for, you know, providing input on how city council might do that, or even identifying a specific issue and having a working group specifically for that, who then develops a strategy plan for collecting information from the community, you know, kind of sussing out a strategy and then coming back and reporting to NAC. So again, don't really have an answer. That's just me spitballing. I see other people's hands raised, so we'll let you all chime in. Sharon and then Jeremy.
I was thinking, Peter, you're 28805 also, right? So I was thinking of getting together with you, Peter, offline, and then you and I can divide up all the neighborhoods that we've got in that. And that'll get me some help because I'm on other boards and commissions. And you and I can divide up going to meetings and find out who's got meetings, who doesn't. We get the feel for other neighborhoods other than me just having a feel for Easton Valley. That's the only thing I've got right now to fix my 28805 issue that I have.
Well,
It's small.
I'm at your service, and I look forward to learning from you too. For one of my challenges is I live in a community, an HOA type of community, where it's just a circle and it's kind of, you know, in its own little island. So I've sort of agonized, how do I get the information? How do I get that feedback? The type that JP is talking about. So, yes.
Okay, I'll send you an email and then we can figure out, and because everything, Jeremy's got everything on what neighborhoods are, and it's online, and we can divide it up or even attend these meetings together and just figure out how we can chew off 28805 because it's a big area.
I'm here to help.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
My pleasure.
Jeremy, you're next.
Thank you, Anna. This is Jeremy. I feel like I'm talking a lot, so sorry. I first want to say I like that idea. I love it because I think, again, even in my position, you know, hearing you go into these meetings, hearing some of these issues is helpful to know because I am but one person in Asheville. It's as small as it is, it's also a large city. So I don't hear it all. So hearing that, oh, this problem here is happening here as well, that's helpful for me. So I appreciate that. Next thing, to your question, Anna, there's a polling feature on Nextdoor that is super easy. And so if there's a quick, hey, we're thinking about having meetings and such, would you be open to that? Like, there's a really easy way where it's not too much work. You can just kind of put that out there, your neighbors, and then we can sort of move forward and progress how we feel is best. Third, staying on track with what I said when I first opened the meeting. I'm apologizing now because I apologize. I should have I'm looking at the 2020 annual report and goals. I probably should have provided that for a little bit more context for the discussion. But if anyone wants that information, I can email it out because, again, looking at sort of these 2020 goals and figuring out, again, COVID happened. We understand. So maybe a couple of things we couldn't complete easily can roll over. I understand. But even looking at the format of this, some accomplishments, upcoming goals. And again, one thing I would love to do with this annual report is look at that strategy for what we choose that we really want to, recommend to the city council, really having that strategy of, we've heard this, we think this should happen or this should be strengthened, ... So thanks everyone for the feedback. And I apologize for not getting this out because it could have provided some context for this conversation.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think Babette first and then JP.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what has helped our community is we do robocalls. And that's a way that we get out information because a lot of our seniors, they don't have email accounts or they don't have computers. So what we started doing was that we'd have at every meeting that we have sign-in sheets. And then that's how we generate a list for the robocalls. And it has worked for our meetings and for whatever else we have going on in our community. And so that does help. And I was going to say, Wendy, I think that you're in East End Valley Street. And East End Valley Street is a part of the E.W. Pearson Collaborative with Shiloh, Burton Street, and Project Lighten Up. So get with Renee McCoy. Renee White, and we worked really hard together. So maybe we can pull some resources together so we can get even more out into the community.
Babette, that's me, Sharon. I'm on East End Valley.
Okay. All right, Sharon, I got you now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the info.
JP, go ahead.
What happened to him?
JP, I think you may be on mute. Did you have a comment?
Yeah. So to echo what Babette's saying is that we're talking about communication, assuming that our friends and neighbors of lower means, of different demographics, have access to these tools. So when we say that we're going to do a virtual survey or we're going to use this electronic tool, we're going to leave a significant portion of that. So I just want this group to be sensitive to that so that we're not continuing to then go always to the same well, always the same voices. We've got to be able to go deeper and find other tools to communicate with the folks who don't have email addresses, like Babette said, who don't have these social media accounts, etc. We got to be creative and really have to be aware that every time that we use a social media platform, we're losing or not reaching a whole other group that doesn't have access to that.
This is Anna. Definitely. Is having some developing sort of like a community outreach working group, is that what
I think yes, we have to have some kind of small collaboration team who can develop the tools and channels for communicating with as deep a segment, to Babette's point, including robocalls, including text messaging, including radio announcements and the different stations that are going to be listened to by these same neighbors. All of that has to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm sort of keeping it high level today, obviously, and not getting into sort of the super refined strategies. But I think, to your point, JP, like there's a lot that could be done just in terms of developing a community outreach strategy for us to solicit feedback and input from those communities, but also to connect those communities together, like you were saying, Babette, where, you know, pooling resources, but also maybe helping communities identify creative ways to get information out to their residents that they may not be aware of. To Babette's point, Burton Street does robocalls, and I have email and social media, and I found those robocalls to be extremely helpful because I just get a message on my phone, and that's what reminds me when there's something going on that I should know about. So,
And I'll make one last, again, we don't have to solve the problem now, but even just, I think that even building a platform for robocalls, you know, that could potentially get expensive or it could potentially get a little bit more complicated. But do we have even just where we send a bulletin to the churches in this area who probably can reach more people in one 5-minute announcement that we can, trying with multiple different formats, so that we're pushing them the talking points, and then they can send us back the feedback via that method. So again, just creative thought process and low cost, easy, and multi-channel.
Jeremy, did you have your hand up before?
I did, but I told myself I wasn't. This is Jeremy, by the way. I wasn't going to talk to him. I'll say this really quick. Everything that everyone's saying, I think, is great. And again, I'm looking at sort of the mission of NET and the communication piece, getting that information to neighborhoods, getting them communicating amongst each other. It just falls in line. So this is really sounding like an upcoming goal that I'm hearing. And so it's just really good feedback.
Thanks, Jeremy. This is Anna. I think so. We've got maybe 5-ish more minutes to run through this all before we need to move on. I'm going to open it up to you all again. How do we want to leave this? Like, what do we want to do? Because we don't need to take a vote on anything today. We're not even there yet. But is developing a working group something that resonates with you all? Is that something that we want to take on? Something that you all as other members have, the time and capacity to do? So, JP, go ahead. You're muted. Sorry.
The two action items that I heard from our conversation is whether it falls on us as a committee or whether Jeremy can help us put this together. Unify all of the different aspects of all the multiple sources of other projects that are going on in the city and identify gaps that help us address safety, traffic, walkability, and bikeability in our various neighborhoods. That would be one. And then, so not only identify what's already happening, because from the multimodal and from all these other plans, we know that there's stuff going on, but then what are the gaps? What is the stuff that isn't covered? And can we start to then build some kind of plan for the future to cover those gaps? And the second one is we as NAC need to be able to identify and establish methods of communication with our neighbors that reach a wider audience by enabling multi-channel and multi-platform types of approaches.
So this is Anna. I think to the first issue that you raised about sort of the gaps, that is happening right now. So hopefully, like, I don't know what the timetable is for the gap plan, but it really is looking at accessibility and ADA deficiencies and also gaps in the pedestrian network and recommendations. So I do think that, and also keeping in mind, once we have that plan in place, that doesn't automatically mean that everything gets fixed because it's incredibly expensive. But I do think that the framework and the groundwork is being laid right now with that. I'll just ask again, does anyone want to volunteer to sort of take the lead on community outreach sort of strategy development? Or is that something that you all are interested in? We got JP. Anybody else? Sweet. I see Mike's hand is raised as well. I'll go ahead and say that, yeah, if you all want to connect offline and get that process started, and if anybody else is interested, to have them contact the two of you, and we'll report back at our next meeting for that. What else do we need to, Jeremy? Yeah.
Sorry, last thing I promise. This is Jeremy, by the way. This information, just so you all know, is everything I'm hearing tonight. I'll go back and listen to the meeting. This is what I'm going to be putting in the annual report as sort of upcoming goals or sort of next steps. So again, just so you all know, this feedback, everything I'm hearing is what I will be putting for those goals as I start working on that annual report. Because again, December is right around the corner, so I want to make sure I have that done. So if there's anything else to consider to think about, please let me know. And again, I can share last year's goals if anyone needs that.
This is Anna. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to also let it be known that the neighborhood of Southside is organizing. Southside Rising is helping to conduct some initiatory efforts to make a Southside neighborhood organization. So that's something that we should look at, maybe finding ways that we can assist that process.
Thanks, Mike. And I think too that this is probably going to show up as sort of continuing conversation, at least for a little bit of time at our next meeting. But look forward to what you all are sort of putting together, and thank you for your ideas. And I also do want to put it out there as far as email communication with each other. It is my understanding that we can email the larger NAC committee. So if I email you all to share information with you, or even inquire about something with you all, that's fine. It's just don't hit reply all, and then that conversation doesn't happen. So yeah, Mike, go ahead.
So my standing question on that is that as long as we just always initiate a new conversation and send to all, it will be okay.
I think that's. I think so, but I think that's a larger question.
Everything that I've seen has kind of pointed in that direction. Is to say that as long as you're not deliberating, as long as you're not replying, then no big deal.
Right.
So if you're just starting a new conversation, but you're never adding to a conversation, then that's the way that you can kind of get around it without subsetting the conversation into little pockets, which I don't think anything comes of that.
Yeah, but I would, yeah. I don't know.
So can I'll give a couple of like a guiding principle. Sharing information is fine to everybody, but replying with questions or with follow-up, that's where it starts to get murky.
Yeah.
So just if you have information to share, hey, look, but then it's a solicitation of ideas or everything like that. When you're asking everybody, but only expecting only one person to reply, that's when it starts to get a little murky, because it becomes difficult to manage that reply all situation, and it just puts us in a strange situation altogether.
All right.
Mike Wasmer again. Thank you, JP. That is really clarifying. It's just like if you're not asking questions, then that's a very good key point.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and shift from the annual report conversation to just our NAC member updates regarding participation on other boards. And so this evening, we've got updates for the Open Space Task Force and the Multimodal Transportation Commission. Sharon, do you have any, do you have any updates you would like to share? I know that we're both jointly serving for Open Space.
Open space is getting reduced, but with this reduction of open space, there's been a lot of compromise working with staff and the people that are involved in this, which is the development community, the building community, and environmentalists and Urban Forestry Commission and everybody. So there's been a lot of compromising going on. I think the best thing that's come out of this is that our tree standards for planting trees and street trees is greatly increasing. And instead of we've all driven around and seen some poorly looking trees that have been stuck in the ground that they're required to do per standard 711-3 that don't make it, then the city becomes responsible for it, and the city doesn't have the money or the time. So we have a lot of dead and dying trees all over the city. We're changing the standard, and we're asking for more root. We're getting more scientific with what we're asking. We're also making the developers more responsible, that when they're required to put trees in under 711-3, that they have a responsibility of more than 1 year so it doesn't pass on to the city. So with this compromise of reduction in open space, there's been some good things coming out of it. And that's pretty much my take on that without getting really in the weeds.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. This is Anna. It has definitely been a very getting into the minutia and over my head on a lot of things, but it's been a really good experience and something that I think we can also include in the annual report, even though this isn't necessarily, I got to look back at the goals, but just anytime that NAC is asked to participate in some of these conversations and task force where, we're making amendments to the UDO, this is a big deal. And so for us to have input on that is really important and something that should continue. But to echo what Sharon was saying, there have also been conversations about pervious and impervious surfaces and stormwater management. So like she said, there are some compromises regarding open space requirements, but there are some other trade-offs that are pretty big, I think, wins for just sort of promoting better environmental stewardship through development. So we have our next meeting on Wednesday, and we'll have another update for you all at our October NAC meeting. For the Multimodal Transportation Commission too, I know that we have a lot of new members on NAC right now. I would encourage you all to reach out to me directly if there are any questions that I can answer for you about what multimodal does, or if there's any sort of resources that I can get you connected with, because there is a lot of overlap with regards to bike and ped safety and infrastructure development and traffic calming. We held our 2021 retreat virtually last week, and I appreciate all of you providing me sort of with feedback and comments on where some community issues lie within your respective communities. And just to sort of keep it brief, the outcome of our retreat was that we ultimately, as a commission, through sort of majority voting and conversation identified 4 priorities that are going to inform the commission's efforts over the next year. And those 4 priorities are: 1, ensuring that transit is a priority in all streetscape designs. So, you know, when streets are being redesigned, we're thinking about sidewalks to bus stops, adequate bus shelter for bus stops so folks aren't waiting for the bus on a narrow strip of grass. ADA accessibility, really sort of looking at things from a complete streets perspective. The second priority is developing or continuing to work towards developing a connected bike network through bike share and cycle and e-cycle infrastructure. So looking at how we can make that infrastructure more robust and safe for everyone, but particularly bicyclists. Number 3 is creating pedestrian zones where we prioritize people over cars in the right-of-way. So continuing the momentum with what we've seen in sort of like the pedestrian zone areas near downtown, where they've repurposed some of that space away from cars using that space into sort of expanded pedestrian space. And then 4 is working towards the creation of a regional transit authority. So that's a pretty big undertaking, and one that's going to require a lot of intergovernmental cooperation, but are looking to get those conversations at least started, knowing that that is a very long-term goal that we have. Who knows how that's going to play out, but we're up for the challenge. So we also tied those 4 identified priorities back to the city's comprehensive plan while we were there. We had a fellow MMTCer who does sort of facilitation as her professional, while she's wearing her professional hat, really lead our retreat. And I felt like we made a really great use of our time within the 3 hours that we had, and felt like we came away with a lot of really good material. And, you know, just to sort of echo what I said earlier, is I encourage you all to, you know, check out our commission agendas and meeting minutes. Get with me if you have any questions or ideas or things you want to float to the larger commission. But also, I think those ideas that you have or concerns may also be really well served through leaving public comment for those meetings too, so that there's record of that. And that's all I have for that. So moving on to agenda items for next or upcoming meetings. Oh, yes, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Hey, this is Elizabeth. Yeah, I don't know if this is the right place to put it in, but it seems to be related to what you were just talking about. There was also about the Close the Gap survey that Lucy Crown had talked about last meeting, and that it's being advertised and put out there. And it was, I think, even in some notes or minutes. We were talking earlier in this meeting about how some people don't have computers or don't have smartphones or don't have ways to really access this. I do, and I spent 25 minutes on the survey and gave up. It's so complicated. It is so hard to open. I talked with several neighbors. It says not even asking the right questions. Again, it's, when Lucy said last time we did a survey, we didn't have a lot of response from this zip code and this zip code. So we've made a really concerted effort in the Oakley Neighborhood Association for trying to get people to do it. And everyone has come back with that same feedback. What in the world is going on with this survey? So I don't know if they're going to get the information that we're really after, but that's just a piece of feedback. I personally, it was very difficult to figure out what to put in there and what was not already decided, but it was like, did we leave a street out? I'm like, well, no, that's not the question I really want to answer.
I would strongly encourage you to share that feedback with Lucy. Sharon.
I totally agree. I got a quarter of the way through it, and I'm used to doing these. And I thought it was going to be much more concise and a lot more specific and a lot less general. And it just, for me, it just didn't answer or do anything that I thought it was going to set out to do. I gave up and didn't do it. So I totally concur with Elizabeth.
This is Anna. Yeah, I would say that when just sort of as city residents, we run into those types of issues. And Jeremy, you might be able to speak to this a little bit. It's really helpful for staff to know that. And I think the more people they hear from and see and pull out themes in those comments and feedback can help them dial things in, or at least pivot and address things. So, Jeremy, did I leave anything out with regards to that, or you want to?
No, this is Jeremy. That was really good feedback. I'll definitely let Lucy know, because we're actually supposed to talk with another group, and so that's good information, and I'll relay it. So thank you.
I would say also individually, if you feel called to share that feedback with her directly, that would probably be helpful too. So for our upcoming meetings, some of the items that we're considering placing on the agenda. One, so as Jeremy mentioned earlier today, having the Office of Data and Performance coming to present at our October meeting to see how we can collaborate with that department as a committee, but also still considering board training, getting a presentation from the Technical Review Committee, which I think could tie in nicely to some other things that we talked about today. And then urban centers and community benefits. We'll have to talk about that because I know that that's going before council tomorrow. So Sharon, go ahead.
There are no more community benefits with urban centers. They pulled it.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. FYI.
Okay, thanks. That's all these agenda items are very much up for being modified. That's why they're not set in stone yet. Our next regular meeting for the Neighborhood Advisory Committee is scheduled for Monday, October 25th, 2021, same time at 5 p.m. and will also be held virtually. And so all of that meeting information can be found on the NAC webpage. And Jeremy, I'll work with you to kind of get some materials and we'll get everything out to folks. And with that, I will now adjourn the meeting unless any objections. So don't see any. So adjourned. Thank you all and have a great evening. Thank you for your continued work and feedback on our conversations tonight.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.